Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Katie, good to see you as always. Thank you. Lance, we got the A-team back with Katie and Lance. John Riosti, Community Bank reporter, American Banker. John, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. What's going on? We'll go right to you, John.
A lot of sound and fury, but as they say, signifies in the end nothing in Washington.
Oh, I like that. Sound and fury. Very nice. Very nice. Go ahead.
They got the votes on the so-called skinny package, which would have been very nice for PPP. It wasn't skinny at all with regard to PPP, but it failed by I think 3 votes in the end.
We know why it failed.
The Senate rules. They didn't have the votes, but they talk about the rules with Supreme Court justices and such. It's a simple majority, but with this, it was a 60-vote threshold, and they didn't get 60 votes. They got all the Republicans, and a surprising number of Democrats crossed over, which is, I guess, worth noting, but not enough Democrats crossed over. So
yeah, that's too bad. That's too bad. So where do we go from here, my friend?
They're still trying. But there's doubt raised by Senator McConnell that a sort of a bigger package that certainly the Democrats would like, and now the president has indicated he would like. There's doubt that can pass in the Senate. He says, "Don't try." That was several days ago, but that's his last word. So there's still doubt. I listened to a report today, an earnings call, and the bank CEO who was talking mentioned that timing is a critical aspect of this, and
Absolutely.
the later it comes, the less effective and the less productive it will be for a lot of businesses. So
yeah, no, absolutely. So, I know is the Treasury Secretary and the Speaker of the House, are they still talking at least?
yes.
Okay. But I always have to ask the question, your crystal ball, what do you think? Are they going to be able to work this out soon?
No, I've been more and more pessimistic for longer. I think, regardless of what the people, or in spite of what the people say, and in spite of, the public clamoring for this, it's not going to happen until after the election.
Okay, after the election, a chance that we'll go over to the to 2021, or who knows? I agree. I don't mean to put you on the spot. None of us know what's going on. I said it's going to be resolved July 3rd. So, what do I know? Katie, what else are you picking up in your research?
John kind of picked up on all of it. I know they are still talking and things, but a lot of people are pretty pessimistic about this happening before the election. I do think it is significant to note that they were fairly close to getting that skinny bill passed. And they could possibly make some tweaks and get that passed, but I think that's the only real hope there for them to do anything. I don't think the larger package is going to pass.
What is the absolute drop dead date on this, John?
They keep talking about this week, but I suspect it's already passed. But I remember Secretary Mnuchin talking about various aspects of stimulus. For instance, this doesn't necessarily apply to SBA, but the $600 checks for individuals. As this gets later and later, that would be very difficult to do. I guess it's now impossible before the election, but it's I guess they'd like to pass something, but just everything is coming close, but falling short.
Well, every day is a new day. Well, we appreciate the update. I think, John, I'm not going to have you come back unless you have better news. How's that for a deal?
So I have a curious question for you, John.
Sure.
In the coming election, do you think this impacts the number of independent candidates that garner votes? Do you think people are going to be irritated at both the Democrats and Republicans?
That's an interesting
That is.
question. Well, I guess we'll have to see with the votes, but it could. And I wonder if that will hurt President Trump, because this cycle, the independent candidate who seems to be doing the best is the Libertarian, Jo Jorgensen. So she's always up around 3%. And if these battleground states are as close right now as people say, maybe they aren't. But if they are, that could. I wonder why people haven't made more of that.
Interesting.
John, one final comment, and I'll be quiet. I've already voted, and I didn't realize it, but Kanye West made the presidential ballot.
Arkansas.
Well, now we know who you voted for.
He didn't make it in California, but I love it. I love it. Hey, let's go to the poll questions. Lance, this came out, the 1112 overpayment, underpayment guidance. Is this going to affect your lending institution? Lance,
Well,
what
I
are we
think it
talking
might.
about first of all?
Well, I think in some cases maybe SBA loan customers may have gotten more CARES Act payments than they were supposed to get, and in some cases maybe they got underpaid, and there's a way to submit for those underpayments or to return those overpayments.
All right, let's ask the first question. How do I know if I'm a lender if my borrower has been overpaid or underpaid?
That, Bob, and you're asking a question. We have an administration group that handles all that, submission of CARES Act payments. I had not seen that in our group, but I'm not exactly, Bob, I'm not exactly sure.
No, neither am I. That's why I asked the question. I don't know. I was just curious of what the impetus was for this to come about. Katie, do you have any background on this? When did this hit? This morning?
I think it technically came out yesterday, but I didn't get into my inbox until this morning. I read through the entire notice, and I did not see anything about how they were supposed to be notified. So I don't know if SBA is going to be contacting the lender or what's going to go on with that.
The good news is it's less than $10. We're not worried about it. I guess my question is on these lances. What is the lender's responsibility, or is this something that SBA will be doing on their own?
I think there's some responsibility on both sides, but my expectation is maybe SBA is going to come back to the lenders with a report of those under and over payments. Again, Bob, I'm
how are they going to figure that out? Yeah.
Yeah, payment administration, Bob, unfortunately, is not my strong suit.
Well, neither am I, that's for sure. And for 43%, I think you answered, or the 91%, it's not theirs either. Anyway, the notice is attached in your PDF. We'll cover this more if this becomes more and more of an issue. Number 2, right up Lance's alley, do we need to do a site visit when your PPP borrower comes and says, hey, I can't make I got my 6 months and I can't make the 7th month payment. What do I do?
Of course, this whole question is PPP borrower.
Right.
We should not have any delinquent PPP borrowers until probably May or June of 2021. But right now, servicing a PPP loan is, unless we get told otherwise, will fall on the 5057-2, and the 5057-2 would indicate a site visit on a delinquent PPP borrower.
Okay. And so ASAP, is that what I mean, do we have a time frame or just?
Well, the SOP says when there is a payment delinquency, when they become 60 days past due, that's when you go ahead and do the site visit.
Okay. And this came up yesterday, Lance. We asked the poll and we got a note. And John, you may be interested in this. It said, we've received forgiveness. I believe the numbers are 53%. But we got a note that said, hey, I've got nothing over 100,000. All the other bankers that I've talked to haven't got anything. So we thought we'd ask the audience. We know that they're approving less than 50. There we go, Lance. What do you think about those responses?
Well, it would indicate to me, and I hate to say this, Bob, but SBA's grabbing the low-hanging fruit.
Oh, yes.
I don't know. I don't know if it's intentional, but probably those PPP loans, say under $150,000, or certainly the forgiveness applications will be easier to process.
We have a ton of questions, and John, you may be interested in some of these. This one is from Raman.
That's one myself, though, real quick, Bob.
Sure.
Maybe for a future show, I'm wondering what mechanism or vehicle has gotten the most success in terms of getting, a forgiveness application through to the finish. Is it the 3508, just the standard form, the 3508 Easy, or the 3508, the newest 3508S?
John, I'm going to speculate that it's a 3508 EZ right now.
80. Go ahead.
I have not heard yet, but that would be a very interesting question to ask.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's ask that tomorrow.
Well, the reason I suspect that, John, is they just started accepting the 3508S on Monday.
Okay. Well,
the 3508 EZ has been in play for a while, so and I could be wrong. They may be picking those up right now, but I would suspect it's the 3508 EZ at this point.
Okay.
Let's see. Sandra says we have received one request for a refund. She's researching it. Russell says deferment ends after SBA remits forgiveness. Does that seem right to you, Lance? Okay. Blake, go ahead.
It is deferred until SBA makes a forgiveness decision.
Now, this is interesting. Blake says PPP can be delinquent sooner than the dates that Lance mentioned if they have not acted on their Forgiveness Act and the EIDL grant was not forgiven.
Say it again, Bob. I'm sorry.
We have a situation where the borrower has not acted upon forgiveness, so they've ignored that process. The 6 months is up, and the EIDL grant has not been forgiven, so we have a situation where we have a delinquent borrower sooner than later, correct?
The Flexibility Act gives them an extended period of time for submission of forgiveness.
Okay. What do you know what that extended period of time is?
Well, the Flexibility Act gives them 10 months from the end of the covered period.
Okay, so just to be clear, we're saying that, I guess, let me ask the question, when are these delinquent PPP loans going to show up on the books when they miss their first payment?
My expectation is in most cases we're going to, I mean, it depends, Bob. When they submit for forgiveness and SBA makes a decision and they choose not to forgive it all, the loan payment will be due 30 days from the decision. So, I mean, you could see delinquencies now, but if they have not submitted for forgiveness, the payments are deferred until they do submit for forgiveness. And they've got 10 months from the end of the covered period to submit for forgiveness.
Dave says, I'm going to be a good SBA citizen. Well, he didn't say that. I put words in his mouth.
I love that. Thank you.
But he says, but wait a minute. I have a loan. There's no collateral. Why would I do a site visit when there's no collateral? And do I just verify they're still open? What do I do?
It would be a very simple site visit. It might be as simple as driving by to make sure it still exists.
Raman keeps asking this, and I'm sorry, Raman. He asked the question because we don't have an answer. So it's not, and I'm not throwing this back at him. But he's saying, Lance, you stated several shows ago that it's better to wait to 2021 to apply for forgiveness because of the state tax issue. Why are you advocating 2021 versus doing it now?
Oh, it would just delay any potential tax issues they might have on the forgiven portion if their state does choose to tax it. In other words, instead of having to pony up in April of 2021 for the forgiven piece that occurred in 2020, if they wait and submit in 2021, they'd have another full year to deal with that tax issue. Now, John, I may be missing it, but I thought there was a piece of legislation that addressed that tax issue. I know the IRS will not tax it, but some states are. In the legislation, was there anything that addressed those states that might tax it?
Yeah, I'd love to hear John's response to that.
I don't think there was. I'm not aware of it. Just the IRS end.
Okay, are you following the story at all? I mean, I guess, are the states going to back, is it that important of a story? Are the states going to back down? I mean, is this something we should really be concerned about, or are the states will back down? What do you think?
I think I'm talking to someone who's just following the story, but I don't think they'll back down.
Really?
Well,
you're full of good news today, John.
Well, and Bob, my take on the 2021 submission for forgiveness is coming from, I'm hearing CPAs tell their customers to wait until January to submit, just in case their state chooses to tax the forgiveness piece.
Very good. Let's go to Sherman's question up on the screen, Lance. We got the payments for 6 months. That's ended. How does SBA look at extending additional relief? Specifically, can we do a deferment 3 months? I'll add in, can we go 6 months? Or should we even do it without, and the key part of this is without having to downgrade the credit. But again.
Well, you absolutely can provide a deferment for someone that was on CARES Act payments that is still struggling. You can do it unilaterally on loans that have not been sold in the secondary market, as long as it meets a couple of criteria that's outlined in the SOP 5057-2. And even on loans sold in the secondary market, you can do a unilateral 90-day deferment. Now, the downgrade question, I think that depends on your regulator and your bank policy on downgrade, because I'm not aware of, I know that Congress provided banks an opportunity, if they deferred payments on commercial real estate loans, they didn't have to move it, identified as a troubled asset. But I'm not sure that extends to SBA loans. So I think the downgrade question is going to go, and John, help me if I'm wrong, to your bank policy and your regulator policy.
But it's immaterial because the bank has no exposure on these loans, right?
Well, this is
they do have exposure, Bob. These are just standard SBA.
So
they do have it.
I misread it. 7A. I apologize.
On the unguaranteed piece, they would have some exposure. So I think that you're going to have to look to your bank and regulator policy on downgrade and making a determination.
Okay, very good. Robert throws in, he's with John, with tax coffers running so dry, there's no way they were going to waive the taxes. So you have a fan there, John.
One.
Yeah.
And Robert continues, Lance, how do we conduct a site visit on a sole prop who's working out of their house?
Well, guys, I can share with you an experience I had. I had a home-based
we have the
business.
Mugshot?
Home-based business that was greatly delinquent, significantly delinquent. It was on a bank that I closed, and I was managing the liquidation of the SBA portfolio. I went out to do the site visit myself. I knocked on the door and was met with a little bit of get out. There was some stronger language used. So I stepped out to the curb. I stepped out to the curb, snapped a picture of the house, and wrote a memo that says, I went to do my site visit to view the collateral. In the case of a PPP loan, there is no collateral. But until we get told otherwise, the SOP 5057-2 governs the servicing of PPP loans, and it would indicate a site visit. So drive out, take a picture of the front of the building, write a short memo, and you're good.
and get out of Dodge. We got a ton of questions. We're going to hold those over tomorrow, but let's answer Melissa's question. Here's the situation. She's not happy with the fact that these idle advances are coming out of the PPP loans and not being forgiven. Therefore, we have to run it as a new loan. She said, we want to know your thoughts on this. We're a community development finance institution. We only have our customers' best interests in mind, and this just isn't sitting right with us. How do you respond? I don't ask you to defend it, Lance, just what's your response?
Well, the problem is this was a surprise. I don't think when they were rushing PPP and idle out, any bank was told, hey, if they get an idle advance, we're not going to forgive that. So what's going to end up happening is institutions will have a large number of small dollar amount PPP loans left on the book that are earning 1% interest and don't have a guarantee, don't have collateral. So do I like it? No, I think it's wrong from a personal perspective because, in the case of a CDFI, most of their PPP loans would be smaller than 50K. And they were probably not prepared for, a lot of these idle advances were $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. They probably were not prepared
Right.
to keep
that's the whole
a lot
point.
of these.
$5,000 for some of these small businesses. That could be, a month's payroll.
Servicing.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, and I apologize for interrupting, but this is becoming a bigger issue, and it's going to get more visibility soon. The trade groups are beginning to weigh in, and they're talking about, there's no proposal on the table yet, so I can't tell you what they're talking about, but they're talking about a solution that needs to come pretty quick. And, I wonder if there was anything about that in that bill that failed anyway, so it's a moot point. But
yeah, and we don't know the details of the bill. I said, Lance, you would have been interested in this. We saw hints of a 95% 7A guarantee, hints of a $10 million limit. Some interesting stuff. Anything other? What about fees? There was a waiver of some type of fees as well, John?
That part I don't know. I'm afraid I don't know the details of that bill. I will say this, the program that Huntington just rolled out the other day, small program aimed at minority, women, and veteran borrowers, but the interesting wrinkle in it is that they're waiving their own origination fees, which you might expect, but they're agreeing to pay the SBA fees, the program fees.
Right. So that's coming from them. I promised James and Abigail we'd get their questions, and we're so far over, another minute's not going to matter. So let's go to James' question. And I held this over for Lance. Lance, we have a company, they have an affiliate company who's making all the payroll expenses, but the loan is in the borrowing company's name. How do we handle that, Lance? Heavy sigh.
That's a difficult question because the PPP loan program, the expenses need to be for the applicant. And, in the case of affiliation, there could be company A who has affiliate B, C, D, and E. They could have all gotten a PPP loan. But this is an excellent question. My recommendation would be to send it to that PPP questions at SBA.gov because I'm not sure about the answer. But if you're asking for my opinion, I think the expenses have to be related to the PPP loan applicant.
Okay. I gave a conflicting answer the other day. I thought this would be something that could be worked out, but you're saying probably not.
Well, and he may be if he's talking about an ETCOC situation.
Yeah, let's assume common ownership, and the other one didn't get a PPP loan. Let's assume those two factors.
This is a very difficult question because by the nature of the program,
fine.
The
There's nothing wrong with saying you don't know, and we're going to punt. We don't know. Okay.
Bob, the expenses should be related to the borrowing entity on the PPP loan.
Okay. Finally, the last question is, Abigail, We have a buyout. We have two partners. One partner is now buying out the other partner. The forgiveness app has not yet submitted. Do we hold something in escrow? To pay off the PPP loan? How do we handle this transaction, Lance?
I think you absolutely would need to hold in the case, say you have two partners 50-50, one partner's buying the other one out. I think that you would need to hold in escrow half of that amount.
Half. Very good. Lance, give a plug for your webinar next Wednesday, 60 days.
Guys, I continue to encourage you to work on developing your skills on delinquent SBA loans because CARES Act payments have ended, and we are going to see some delinquent SBA loans. The webinar next Wednesday is going to give you the tools, tricks to handle delinquent SBA loans. So please sign up and participate.
Lance, thank you very much for joining us. We missed you the last couple of days. Katie, as always, I'm glad that you took care of your internet gremlins. Obviously, the gremlins ate my, you see my green screen. We have a bunch of questions we'll hold over tomorrow. John, as always, I really appreciate your time. You will be invited back next Thursday. And then the Thursday after that is the day after the election. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming up.
Oh.
Right? Yeah.
We're all still here.
All right. Thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a
Have a great afternoon.